Hi, this is Anita from 5 Minutes with Art. Frida Kahlo is one of the most celebrated artists of the 20th century. She's known for not only her deeply personal and emotional portraits, but also her Mexican heritage and Mexican culture. She was born in Mexico on July 6, 1907. She grew up during a time of political and cultural upheaval as Mexico's transition out of the Mexican Revolution, which was 1910 to 1920, into a renewed sense of national identity. This is very interesting because when you look at her artwork, you can see this national identity coming out. That there is no doubt that Frida Kahlo was very proud to be Mexican and was proud of her culture and heritage. When you look at her works of art, you can see this in her works of art. For example, here are some of the ways that she celebrated her Mexican culture in her works of art. First one was traditional clothing. She had this iconic style that included the weaving of traditional, Mexican dresses, embroidered blouses, elaborate hairstyles, adorned with flowers, which were all part of the Mexican culture. In fact, it's called the Tijuana style. The choice of using this clothing in many of her artwork really showed that she really had this great pride, you could say, Mexican pride of showing people that she was an American artist. She was actually a Mexican artist. She also used a lot of folklore and mythology in her work. She would draw on Mexican folklore and pre-Columbian mythology to create symbolic narratives in her art. She look at things such as the Aztec gods, the duality of life and death, and the references to the Day of the Dead. That these would all be things that would explore sort of the identity of morality and resilience. And this again also too showed by using this folklore and mythology that her work was very much in tune with the Mexican culture and society. She used a lot of the Mexican landscapes and flora. There's an abundance of the Mexican landscape and flora in her paintings, especially in many of the flowers. This also emphasized her great connection to the natural beauty of her homeland and served as a metaphor many times in her paintings. These elements that she used would serve as kind of a metaphor for growth, fertility, and endurance. Her folk art and symbolism is heavily based upon Mexican folk traditions. Things such as small, devout little paintings or religious iconography. Her use of bright, saturated colors and the flat illustrative styles also mimics the type of folk art that could be seen in Mexico in her work. When you look at her actual artwork, and to really appreciate Frida Kahlo, you need to really appreciate this aspect of her life, that she was very much a Mexican artist who really had a great belief, or she had a great understanding of the Mexican culture and what the Mexican culture meant to her. That she was very proud in many ways to be, not in many ways, but she was very proud to be Mexican. And you can see this come out in her paintings. They're, in a sense, kind of nationalistic paintings. That she was an artist who really, really painted and celebrated her roots. That she understood where she came from, and she celebrated that and celebrated the Mexican culture that she came from. If you'd like to be able to read more about her and see some of her paintings, especially those who have some real ties to the Mexican culture, you can read our blog post we've written called Frida Kahlo's Mexican Roots, a Cultural Celebration in Art. And when you look at these pieces of art that we have picked out for this, you can see how you can see the influence of the Mexican culture in her works of art. Thank you so much for listening. We do appreciate you, our listeners. We hope that you will get to know a little bit more about Frida Kahlo and her Mexican culture. It really is quite a fascinating story, and she is a fascinating artist. Thank you so much for listening.